I do remember when we were talking about designing Bianca, is that we wanted there to be a reveal of some sort, that we wanted her to seem villainous at the beginning and then have her kind of switch up midway through, that so she becomes an ally towards the end.
Hey guys, it's Miharu. As you are no doubt aware, I love Spyro 3. And one of my favorite characters, not just from this game, but from the Spyro series itself, is Bianca. Beautiful, sneaky, sassy. If you are or have ever been a furry, chances are you had a crush on her or find her attractive. Perhaps even more so in Reignited with her Lola Bunny-esque redesign. But what is it that makes her so interesting? Well, to me personally, Bianca is important because of a little thing called character development. I've discussed this numerous times before, but this is one of the first instances in any video game I can remember in which a villain went through a redemption arc. I know that's a pretty common thing in media nowadays, and it's often over the course of several games or episodes before the villain even has a chance to redeem themselves. But sometimes simplicity is all we need, and this is a great example of a reformation arc done well given limitations. That is, it was, until Reignited screwed it up. Before I go on, I'd like to address a counter-argument I see frequently brought up, which is that Bianca was never a villain in the first place. To which I say, well, that's obvious. Bianca was never truly evil, that's a given. However, it doesn't change the fact that she starts off on the side of villainy. The whole point was to fool the player into making her seem like one of the bad guys. Where Bianca really shines in Reignited is in her design and animations. Her expressions, how she waves her wand, holds her ear when she's scared. She's just so cute. Appearance-wise, she's a near perfect recreation of her old self. In fact, I dare say she looks even better. Then there's her voice. Melissa Hutchison does an excellent job at making her sound just as cute as she looks. I wish I didn't have to say it, but this is all part of what ultimately ends up being the downfall of her character and arc. First of all, there's no subtlety. Everything about her radiates this clumsy apprentice energy, from her comically oversized sleeves to the underlying timidity whenever she speaks.
Try looking after this. Try looking after this.
Notice how much more assertive her tone is in the original. That sass and confidence, even if it wasn't real, was enough to give the impression that she could have been a threat. Without it, much of her intimidation was lost. And speaking of intimidating, did you know she was given claws in Reignited? It's one of my favorite details about her design. But now all I can think about is the wasted potential behind this decision. If the sleeves on her robe weren't so long, those claws would have been visible, which could have been utilized to make her appear more menacing at the start of the game. Instead, Reignited chose to play up her innocent nature, reducing the overall quality of her story. Let's compare some cutscenes to help explain what I mean. When Bianca reports back to the sorceress and tells her the eggs have been captured, the sorceress makes a remark.
Maybe you will amount to something after all.
And in Reignited, we clearly see Bianca taken aback by these words. Now obviously I know it's going to be somewhat unfair to compare based on animations, as the remake is trying to show more expressiveness and emotion through action, which I like. But keep in mind, I'm comparing based on what I feel is lost due to these changes. This small, seemingly insignificant addition is displaying her uncertainty towards the sorceress too early. This is further shown in the second warning. Look at the way she steps out from behind the tree. In the original, she has this squinty-eyed, smug look on her face, whereas in Reignited, she just does this. Again, this is what adds to her cuteness and charm. But that's precisely the problem. And this just makes it look like she's trying too hard to be a
scary sorceress,
rather than giving off that vibe naturally, which serves as a means for the player to question her motives and if she's truly evil or not.
And I believe part of the reason for making her the bunny was so when the hood came down, there was a change in her silhouette.
In the original version of the first scene with her and Hunter after he's captured, she walks up to the cage and lowers her hood before apologizing and offering him food. Now remember, this is the first time in the game we see her like this. It was the turning point of her character, and the act itself was symbolic of her showing her vulnerability and becoming more comfortable with revealing her true self. So by having her appear in Reignited with her hood already off, that symbolism is no longer present. But that's not the only detail I wanted to point out in this scene. Take a look at how Bianca responds when Hunter is trying to persuade her to let him go.
I'm sorry. I can't.
I'm sorry, I can't.
In Reignited, she stops and thinks about it before telling him she can't. In the original, she looks back behind her, as if she's being watched. You can see she's having doubts, but this represents the hold the sorceress has over her, like she's being constantly monitored and must keep up the act she's always known. It's very possible that Bianca saw the sorceress as not only her mentor, but a parental figure as well. She trusted her and genuinely believed what they were doing was for the greater good of the Forgotten Realms, further explaining her attitude towards Spyro. So when the sorceress's ultimate plan of gaining immortality by killing the baby dragons is revealed, it's supposed to come off as though she's legitimately been deceived.
Wait a second. A spell?
Listen to the stuttering, the utter shock and confusion in her voice as she learns the truth, like everything she thought she knew is suddenly crumbling before her.
Wait a second. A spell?
Needless to say, she doesn't sound as perturbed in Reignited. Voice performance is something I'm always paying attention to and critiquing, and I have quite a bit to say about it in Bianca's case. As I said earlier, I like Melissa's performance as a whole, and think her voice fits the character very well. Her portrayal comes off as more sarcastic and playful in the opening bits of Sunrise Spring, giving the impression that she's a lovable dork who's trying her best to be evil. A fine decision on paper, and one I might normally enjoy, but in comparison to the original, it's something I greatly take issue with. Now, I'm not saying she had a ton of depth by any means, but Pamela Hayden's portrayal of Bianca during these beginning parts comes off as more condescending and unlikable, better setting up player motivation to prove her wrong, and thus making her turnaround all the more effective. Of course, due to the graphical limitations of the PS1, that meant voice acting was key. It was essential in making sure the proper emotion was expressed to the audience, and it was pulled off brilliantly with each line of dialogue. Each time you encounter Bianca in-game, you can tell something within her is changing, until finally she greets you in Midnight Mountain, and later the Super Bonus round, having come full circle from how she was before. But there was one instance in particular, the line that sparked the idea for this video, something that, in my opinion, was the undoing of Bianca's character arc in Reignited. I am of course speaking of the first encounter in Evening Lake. Here's the dialogue from the original.
Listen to me, Dragon. Spyro, this is serious now.
And here it is in the remake.
Listen to me, Dragon. Spyro, this is serious now.
Once again.
Listen to me, Dragon. Spyro.
That pause, that was intentional. I must stress the importance of this line delivery because, just like the scene with her and Hunter, this was a major turning point for her. She had to bring herself to say Spyro's name, admit to herself that she really did care about him and Hunter and didn't want to see them get hurt. There is so much emotion in this line alone that perfectly conveys the inner struggle she's experiencing, and Reignited just throws that out the window by making it seem like nothing more than a drive-by occurrence, completely diminishing whatever impact it had. This is so disappointing because it comes across as if her change of heart happened instantaneously, or rather that it was unnecessary, like everything she had said and done up until that point had been meaningless. The fact is, though we like to brush this off as a simple case of a villain turning good, it's more about a misguided character finding the courage within themselves to forge their own path and do the right thing, even if they were afraid to do so. Interestingly enough, this is actually reflected quite well through Bianca's new idle animations. In Sunrise Spring and Midday Gardens, she's
very angry.
In Evening Lake and Midnight Mountain, there's a hint of sadness and concern. And in the Super Bonus round, after the sorceress has been defeated, she's noticeably happier. She's still happy before the second fight as well, but that's beside the point. It's crazy how, even now, Bianca manages to fascinate me with how well written she is as a character. Her story is so straightforward yet so compelling for a game such as this. And that's my main problem with her in Reignited. She just isn't properly characterized. The transition from old to new wasn't handled as well as it could have been, resulting in her feeling like the same character from beginning to end. So does all of this mean I hate her in the remake? No, not at all. But for such an important character in the series, the only antagonist turned protagonist in the original trilogy, it's just sad to see her story scaled down like this. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and happy Year of the Rabbit. As always, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe for more casual gaming content, and I will see you next time. Until then, this is Miharu, signing off.